right, so I just sat down here. We're going to basically make a video of the 395 that I've been working on. It's a Holtzfforma 395, ported up for the races, and the rules for this race basically, you got to have it's got to be aftermarket, top end. It's a clone. Basically, it's got to be a clone. But you're allowed to do your air filter mods, your muffler mods, stuff like that. But not really a whole lot more than that. A ported saw, however you see fit or whatever. You're not allowed to run crazy fuels. You got to run round, normal round chain, all that stuff. And this saw is built to, within those rules. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to make a video of what I just did right now. Is going to be the first start with the second cylinder. We are in a second cylinder already, and we haven't even put it in wood yet. And then hopefully we'll get to see it through to the wood, all the way through the first cuts. So I want to bring you in right now here and show you the first start, and a clip or two from that, and then I'll bring you back in. We're going to say a little something here, and then I'm going to tell you a few things about the saw and a couple of things I'm noticing already. So, alrighty, I'll bring you right back in a second. First attempted start, back on the 395, got a fresh top end on it. That bar is only there, as you see, there's no chain. It's just there to use for a spacer so that I can set the chain brake and make sure the clutch is tight. That's the only reason that's there. So, yep. First attempt here with the second cylinder on this guy. And as you can tell, we got a little compression. We'll use the compression release though and see what happens. Alright, so there she is, first start. If you noticed how easy it started, that's because of how I started pre-lubricating, I guess you could say, the cylinder. Basically, I'm putting them together dry now. I stopped pre-lubricating cylinders, I just put them together dry, and what I'm doing is, once it's all together, before I stick the spark plug in, or start even pulling on the cord, I got a little spray bottle. I give it 3 sprays of mixed fuel right down the spark plug hole, turn it over a few times, and that's what I'm relying on for my pre-lubrication. Just a little bit of gas and oil mix, which kind of helps because on the first start, because I basically just primed the system. Makes it easy. So you might have noticed how it fired right up pretty easy, and then all of a sudden it got like lean and tried stalling out, and then it took off. That's just the time between burning the fuel from the prime till the carburetor started supplying the fuel. You know what I mean? There was a little gap there and it almost shut off. So yeah, first start. First thing I'm noticing here is I'm pretty certain I got this all tuned stupid rich right now. We'll see. We'll see how she goes. I mean, if it's consuming this much fuel and it's going to do it at really good RPM, then it should have really good power. So it takes fuel to make power. So sometimes, you know, well, some of your improvements will be made to improve the efficiency in which it's run. And sometimes you can get them to just devour more fuel and get more power that way. And this is kind of built with the combination of the two, I guess you can say. Big ports, you know, just capable of moving monster volumes. And that's kind of what I went with. I don't know what people usually run for a roof on these, especially in like a race build. You know, this is my first one that I built. So I just went with my gut and I put it at a 98 roof, mostly because I not really planning on running it past a 20-inch bar. I might go to a 24 or so later on, but you know, it's not going to be for 36-inch bars. This is going to be a shorter bar for the races, and you know what I mean. So yeah, if you noticed, I took off the outside set of dogs. They're gone. It's just the inside set, and I rounded them off. I started doing this because it leaves a gap between the case of the saw and where, you know, you're making contact with the wood. That little bit of gap, you lose some chips. And, you know, if you can get rid of some chips in that little gap, maybe it will help keep things from getting clogged up so much in the clutch cover itself. So that's why I do that way. Some saws in the past, I've actually removed the dogs, and then I've started actually putting them back on and just rounding over the corners so that it don't dig into the wood. When I'm cutting, it just kind of, you know, it'll still kind of glide through. It hasn't bit me in the butt yet, but we'll see. If it starts biting me in the butt, we'll probably come up with a different solution. Maybe just a flat, you know, homemade skid plate type of situation there. But I want to have a little bit of a gap between the case and where the chain is making contact with the wood. There's the more chips I can spell out there, the better it should help in the clutch cover where things will tend to get clogged up a little bit. You know what I mean? That's about it. She's thumping over pretty good. Everything feels perfect. There's nothing about the way it's running right now tells me otherwise. So I think we're going to have a good build with this one. I'll be curious to see how she turns out in the end. There's going to be some time here. It's going to take some time. You know, we got to break this thing in, seat the rings, all that stuff. And if you've watched my channel enough, you'll have noticed that there's seating the rings and breaking it in and fully broken in. And it's kind of like three different things, kind of, I don't know. There's a stage between when you really start seeing the ring seat to the time it's fully broken in. There's some time there. It takes quite a few tanks. Some folks will say 10 tanks, and sometimes that's true. Depends on how good and perfectly round your cylinder is versus your rings and stuff. Some of the ones that aren't so perfect take a little longer, like that 372 hopper built. I mean, I ran that saw a lot for like 2 years until it broke in, like fully. Had a really good full seat, and it just really came alive on me. So it might be a while for this one to, you know, get there. But I wouldn't say we gained a night and day improvement, but if you'd watched the early videos of the saw, like that 372 to where it is now, there's definitely improvement. You know what I mean? She pumped up a lot in compression in that time and everything, and I got a feeling we're going to see some similar results with this one. So, what else? I moved over here to the picnic table because I was blowing the exhaust out the door. I was over at the bench, and I came over here to blow the exhaust out the door. She's just blowing smoke everywhere out that door. That's one of the things that's making me think it's tuned pretty fat right now. It's just a huge cloud of smoke blowing out the door. It's kind of funny because I'm every bit of 12 feet from the door, and it's like a perfect jet, just straight out the door, and then it opens up just in time for it to be outside the door. You know what I mean? So I'm going 12 feet until I see the smoke kind of do its big cloud. You know what I mean? It's like a perfect jet out there. So she's definitely moving that there in a pretty fast. It's kind of fun to watching that smoke blow out there. You know what I mean? I sat here and watched it for a while. I don't know. I got fascinated for some reason. I'm liking the way it's turning out, though. It feels good and healthy. I'm be curious to see what she does in the wood, and I probably rambled on enough. So we'll go ahead and put the next part of this video with the first cuts. So yeah, here we go. Oh, by the way, I'll tell you the numbers. It's a 98 roof. Transfers are not typical. There's nothing normal about these transfers at all. They are what I would call bridge ported. It's basically a bridge ported saw, which bridging the transfer between the lower and the upper. And the way that I did it is kind of weird looking and everything. What else? And they're not, the transfers aren't timed perfectly. I gave them a little bit of a ski slope effect. So the very tippy toppy point is at 118, and it's down into the 120s by the time you get to the lowest point. So the highest point though is sitting at like 118, and then the intake is sitting at 85 degrees. So those are the numbers on this build. Decent amount of machine work. I think I ended up taking 85 thousandths off the base, I think. Something like that, maybe 90. You know the little impulse that sticks out the bottom? I'm probably, I don't know, 10? No, probably further than that, 20? Maybe 20 thousandths away from hitting that little impulse. So, just getting down there. I pushed it pretty good. Got some combustion chamber work and everything done. Here come the boys, and I don't know why they're out here. You guys got like 2 layers of clothes on.
Because the mosquitoes can bite us.
Oh, you don't want the mosquitoes to bite you.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, hey, on to the next part of the video. We're going to cut some wood. Alright, I got this all fired up. We're going to make some cuts. Alright, we're going to make some cuts here. Just a quick test run. But if you see me head to the other side of the log, I'm just doing that to give the saw some run time. That just means that everything seems to be working out, and we're moving towards getting the ring seated. So I'm going to move to the other side of the log when that happens, make cookies, just to give her some run time. Let's see what she runs like. I don't know if I'm going to lean it all the way out today, though. Let's see. Alright, there she is. I think we're moving towards the next stage, and that's just, running it and getting it broke in. You probably can't hear it on video, but there is a little bit of a crackle coming out of the exhaust. She's a little on the fat side. It's not just on the free rev, like top end, where there's a lot of crackle. It's the whole time in a cut. So she is a little bit on the fat side of the tune. And I stuck an OEM oil pump on there. It was a used one though. I still feel like I'm not getting enough oil. I think I'm going to tear into that some more and see if I can figure it out. I put a new worm gear and everything on. I hope I didn't just ruin that worm gear again. Something, I don't know, just something seems funky out on that on the oil pump. It's getting oil, just not enough to my liking. I've played with the adjuster and everything. It just, I don't know. I don't like the volume of oil it's producing. I'd like to have more. Other than that, I think it's just running, tuning, and the oil pump, really. That's pretty much what we're down to, I think. That's basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run it, make some cuts, get her up to a good operating temperature, and shut her down, let her cool off. I'll do that a few times, and as I do it, you know, the tune should keep getting richer and richer on me, and I'll start leaning it out and see what this thing can do in the end, you know? So, you know, if we've seen other saws in the past where they performed on the first cuts versus where they were at the end, I think this thing's gonna run pretty darn good. You know, I did advance the timing a little bit. I don't know, maybe 5 degrees. I didn't measure it, but there is a little bit of an advance on this one. Me and Bodie had a conversation about that. I told him I hardly ever advance the timing on anything, and he's like, advance the timing? You get more. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can say I'm lazy on that part or something, but I don't usually do it. And I did on this one. So I'll be curious to see where she gets in the end, you know? It's kind of funny the way that conversation with him and I went, though. It was like he was flabbergasted that I'm not trying to get that little bit more performance. You know, sometimes it's huge. I just never play with it. I don't know why. It's just me. You know, some saws like it, some don't, and I almost never do it. But this one did. This one I did here, so we'll see. But there we go. I think it's safe to say the 395 is officially built, boarded, and we're moving into the next stages, getting her broke in and everything. I sure hope it turns out, you know. Right now, I'm not super impressed. I'm not. But I can tell that it once ran. It definitely once ran. You can just, you know, after you do this a while, you kind of get a feel for whenever they're brand new versus broke in, you know what I mean? You can kind of tell. And this one definitely once ran. It's probably going to take a couple of tanks to get her broke in. But I doubt it won't even be broke in by the time I head out to Saltfest, you know. But I'm going to run it anyway. It's not going to be the fastest one there, but I'll have a running 395, you know. Well, if you guys like the performance level of this right now, wait until you see it at the races and you see what some of these guys are capable to get out of these things. It's crazy what people can get out of these, and you know what I mean. I've told you the numbers. I mean, there's nothing unusual about it. You know what I mean? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, hey, I hope you enjoyed this one. Later.